Hey guys, so here's your review on how to break down a chicken from last year. I know you guys only got to do it once. So I tried to make my setup as close to Eastern as possible, but remember that this setup is also what you're going to be doing in the field whenever you break down a chicken, and it is also what's required on your NOCTI exam to get the most points, because it's kind of like the standard breading procedure. This is the standard procedure for kind of setting up and breaking down a chicken. So I have two right here, and they're big boys. These are what are known as roasters, and roasters are anywhere from like 4 to 6 pounds. A fryer, which is what you normally see in the store, is like 3 to 4 pounds. So these are big boys or big girls. And so normally you would have them in hotel pans. Obviously, actually I did have hotel pans here, but I donated them to Eastern. I have two 13x9 dishes, and in the bottom one is ice, and that will keep everything cold and keep our chickens cold while we work with them, so we are being safe. And I have a cutting board with a towel underneath of it. I have gloves, and I have a boning knife, and actually I have some paper towels because I don't have kitchen towels here at my house other than the one that I'm currently using to hold my board steady. So this should be the setup. And if you notice, I'm using a yellow cutting board. Yellow means poultry. I know you guys didn't work with that a lot last year. Green is vegetables, yellow is poultry, blue is seafood, brown is pork or beef that is cooked, and then red is raw pork, beef, lamb, any kind of red meat. And white cutting boards are actually now they didn't used to. They used to be like universal, but now they're saying that they are for prepared foods. So make sure that you grab the right cutting board. So let's get right into it. So what I'm going to do is let me grab this one first because I want to show you this. One came with a pop-up timer, one did not come with a pop-up timer. And so I'm just going to take this out because obviously we're not roasting this bird whole. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it down. So this pop-up timer, so inside is a tiny little spring and essentially epoxy. And epoxy is a kind of glue, but what they did is they made the epoxy melt at 180 to 185 degrees. Well, if you know anything about poultry, this bird is done at 165 degrees. So they want to make sure that the bird is completely done and technically overcooked. So don't trust it. Most birds come with giblets in the cavity, and so giblets are the heart, the kidneys, the neck, and I think that's it. I think there might be one more. Heart, kidneys, liver. That's what I forgot, the liver. Liver is what I think is the most important. So the nice thing about a chicken is that you can kind of see through the skin where to cut. So the first thing you're going to do is grab the leg, and where the leg meets the breast, and some people say to hold it like this so you can just let the bird kind of fall away, and that will show you where to cut. And then what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over, and then you're going to put your thumb here, and you can feel where the joint is, and you're going to pop out the joint. You can see the joint is there now. And then right here, this is called the oyster, and you want to go down to the oyster and use the tip of the knife. You go around the oyster, and then some people, they say that you can like just tear it all the way back, and I've never tried that before. Maybe we'll try it on the other side, but I always learned to use the tip of the knife and then go to the edge of the tail. And now, unfortunately, the tail is not here on this bird, but I'm just going to run my knife along to where the tail would be. And there we have the leg and the thigh. And now we're going to do that to the other side. So we're going to the skin between the leg and the breast. We're going to flip it over. And then you can see, like I always say, like it like pees like like on a fire hydrant, like a dog. When you do this, before you dislocate the joint, you can see kind of where that oyster is. And you see how close it comes to the other side. So actually, I'm just going to cut that a little more. And I'm going to pop it out just like that. And you can see that this is a little bit more purple than here. And if it looks a little bit more purple, that will tell you that there's meat underneath the skin. And so they say cut through the sinew and then you can pull all the way to the side. Let's see what happens. Look at that. It actually worked and it pulled it off really nicely. The only thing I'm gonna say is that when I cut down a chicken, if you notice that this hand is wet and this hand is dry, I try and practice clean hand, dirty hand. My clean hand is my knife hand. And the reason that I do this whenever I work with poultry or meats or anything is because if I need to touch the sink, if I need to grab salt and pepper, if I need to use seasoning, I have a clean hand to do that. I am wearing a glove today because a lot of times when you first start working with chicken, both hands get dirty. Like I just, you rinse it off and whatever you're going to do. But try and practice clean hand, dirty hand. So we're gonna take these right now and we're going to and actually before we get going, we're just gonna clean them up a little bit. So we're gonna take this extra skin off, put that aside. That is for stock. So don't throw any of it away. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to cut here, and I have a leg and a thigh. And you might say to yourself, how do I know where to cut? So right here, you see that fat line and you can see where the thigh meets the leg. You can just kind of feel with your finger, there's the notch there. And you're just gonna, if you put your knife right where it is, you find exactly where you should cut. So we have the leg and the thigh, and that is how you cut them off. And I'm gonna show you this twice, but slightly different, which is why I'm going a little quick. And this, should be review a little bit. So now what we're gonna do is all we have left are the wings and the breasts. And so right here, what I lovingly call the armpit, you're gonna put your knife just right in here and you're gonna make a slice. And then that should expose the joint. And you can see a bone there and a bone there. And then all you have to do is cut through and you have your wing. And then we're gonna do that to the other side, right straight down into the armpit, make a slice, find that joint, and then cut through. And try not to cut too much of the breast off. Realistically, you have the drumette, you have what's called the paddle or the flat, if you like wings, and then you have the wingtips. And the wingtips are great for stock. So once you have your wings cut, you're gonna cut the flat or the paddle from the drum, and you're gonna find that notch again, and you're just gonna cut through, and now you have a drumette. And then right here, you're also gonna just feel for the notch, let your knife do the work, and now this is for stock, and then this is for a wing. Same thing, just feel where it is. And this takes some practice. It took me, doing this many times to figure out where that was as easily as I am doing now. So don't get discouraged. Lastly, and I'm just gonna flatten this out a little bit, we have the breast. And so right down the middle, and this one's not laying too flat for me, which doesn't normally happen. I'm gonna leave the skin on and I'm gonna show you why. So when I do the next one, I'm actually gonna show you how to leave do an airline breast, which sometimes on the NOCTI, they ask you to do that or in competition. So the first way is just how to normally break down a chicken. And then the second is how you would break down the chicken for a competition or if they would ask you on the NOCTI. So all I'm gonna do is right down the center, you can feel the bone, is just make one cut. And then your knife is naturally going to go to one side or the other on the bone. And so mine is actually going towards the right side, and that's good because if I'm right-handed, so I wanna cut towards my left. If you're left-handed, you're gonna cut towards your right. So because I'm right-handed, I'm gonna do the left breast first. So I'm just gonna use the tip of the knife and I'm just gonna run my knife along the bone and the wishbone broke, which is normally right here, but we'll pull that out at the end. If the wishbone is there, you just run your knife down the wishbone. So, and you can see the bone is being exposed. Just pull off a little bit at a time, running your knife along the bone. And see, sometimes I'll cut backwards like that, and that helps. And this takes some practice too. And you can see how big this chicken is. Okay, and there actually is the, so right here is where it connects. but actually the what's making it connect right now is actually the wishbone, which is right here, which you can, if you want to get your second hand dirty, you can just like hold down the chicken and pull it out. Or actually you can hold it down with the knife. See, there it is. There's half the wishbone. Throw that in for stock. And on the inside of the chicken breast is actually the tender, okay? That's where the tender comes from. And the tender is actually the second most tender part of the chicken. The most tender part is actually the oyster, which is on the dark meat. And then we'll just trim this up a little bit. Need to resharpen my knife at some point. There we go. It's looking pretty good. The nice thing about chicken fat is normally when you cook it, it like kind of renders down. Render means cooks the fat out, and it kind of just disappears and leaves behind like nice crispy skin. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start out cutting this way on the other side. And if you notice, I'm cutting into the bone slightly. Because if you don't cut in the bone, what's gonna happen is you're gonna leave a lot of meat on the bone. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip it around. The biggest mistake I see students make when breaking down a chicken is not moving the food to make it easier on themselves. Like they're all like trying to bend around the chicken. Move the chicken to what you need. And now I'm just gonna do it the opposite way. I'm just gonna work my way down. Yet again, my wishbone is broke, so I'm just gonna find that joint. I'm gonna cut through. This is going to be for stock. This is known as the carcass. And then we have the tender. So if I wanna keep my right hand clean, a lot of times I'll just hold it down with my knife, and sometimes I'll hold it down opposite so my hand isn't near the blade. And then you can just do what you need to do. And then that keeps my right hand clean. Tender. And now I have the breast. So when you are done with your first chicken, this is all the parts that you should have. It's a lot of meat. And most of the time, this is why it's so cost effective to break down a chicken. This chicken was $6 because it was a bigger chicken. Normally it's like $1 a pound. If you buy, most chickens in the stores are 3 to 4 pounds, which means that you're gonna pay about $4 for an entire chicken. That's 2 breasts, 2 tenders, 4 wings, 2 legs, 2 thighs, and a carcass. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, okay? Okay, a lot of times they'll call it the 8 because, you know, you get like 2 different kinds of wings and you get a carcass and, you know, but this is what you should be ending up with. Okay, so that is your standard way. Now let's go through real quick the NOCTI or the competition way. There are some places that still do airline breasts, not many. And then if I want a Ballantine, this is a straight shot. So all you're gonna do is go down the center with the tip of the knife and expose the bone. And then you're gonna cut to one side, and then you're gonna cut to the other side. Ballantining means to take the bone out of the chicken, and depending on what competition you're in, sometimes they make you do that. Now you don't wanna cut all the way through the thigh, because that would be bad, and then you're gonna have 2 pieces of thighs. So I'm gonna release it from the top right here, and then all I'm going to do is cut down this way. And then I'm gonna go to the other side, cut down the other way, and then just scrape my knife on the bone. And this does take some practice. I always tell students, no matter how bad you mess it up, you're still saving money. If you buy a whole, and see, this is perfect for stock. So if you buy a whole chicken, it's gonna be about $4. If you buy 3 chicken breasts, it's gonna be $8. See the value? So there we go. We have thighs, and for the sake of time, I'm going to just skip that one. So now we have our breasts and our wings. and I'm gonna show you how to do what's called an airline breast. And I believe they call it an airline breast because it still has the wing on it. So what you're gonna do is, it only has part of the wing. So we're gonna cut right here. And I'm gonna cut down to the bone before it gets to the end. So I'm about maybe 1/2 inch in. And I'm just gonna cut all the way around. Notice how I'm just spinning the chicken all the way around. And that's going to expose the bone. And then, do you see how it kind of flaps this way? Well, I'm gonna keep bending it the way it goes. So I'm gonna hyperextend it just like that. And that gives you a nice clean bone. And that's what they're looking for in competition in NOCTI. Now, if it's not clean like that little bit, use the back of the knife, scrape away from you and scrape that extra stuff off. And now here's the second one. So right here, I'm gonna cut right down. I'm gonna cut about 1/2 inch in from the edge of the bone. I'm gonna go all the way around. See how I'm still cutting my knife like kind of like a hacksaw to make sure I'm all the way down to the bone. And then it goes this way. So I'm just gonna keep it going in that direction. Knife is pointed away, pop it. There you go. So this is now an airline breast. So now we're just gonna take it off exactly the way we did the first one. I'm gonna go down on the left side of this bone here is called the keel bone. Oh, I cut through the wishbone again. The keel bone is, it's like on a boat. It's the keel is the fin that goes down into the water, because realistically, when a chicken runs, a chicken is actually running like this. So its backup is in the air and its breasts are pointing down. So the keel is actually pointing down. And I'm just gonna go, this part of the breast, I don't know why it works better to go, notice how I'm still going away from me, but I flip the knife over. It just works out so much better. And this is where you have to remember that you have your wing on here, and you need to find the joint, which is right there, and that was the wishbone. That's just mocking me again. And there we go. And now we just clean this thing up. And actually I did a better job this time of leaving the skin on. And then you can clean this one up the same way. It still has that little bit of like connective tissue in like the corner here, which is always there. Always take that out because that does not look very pretty when it's cooked. Put that in our stockpile. There's one. And actually, before I get started, if you want to take the wishbone out before you start, some culinary instructors tell you to do that. You can just cut down, if you can see what I'm doing, just like that. And then, like, if you know it's broken or it's in the way, there it is. So now we should have an easier time. So I'm gonna start out like this, and I'm gonna cut down to the bone. And then I'm gonna flip it around to make it easier. And I'm just gonna peel the meat away as I'm going down the bone. Ooh. Don't forget that you have a wing on there. I so rarely make an airline breast. And it used to be super popular. Like, you'll see restaurants that have it like on there because they think it looks more fancy, and it kind of does. And so I have my carcass, I have my my breast, I have my wings, and same deal, just find the joint, cut through. These are known as the paddles. In wing language, they call them flats, but technically they're the paddles. And that's it. And you see there's still a little bit of meat here, which is good for our stock. So when we roast it off, that gets nice and brown and yummy, GBD. And that's basically chicken. So 2 more things before you go, and I'm gonna stop the camera again before the second thing, is that no matter how clean you work, your cutting board's always going to be a mess. And I don't know if you can see that on the video, but the problem is one, they have to be sanitized. So if we put them through the dish machine, they get up to 180 degrees, which will kill any of the bacteria that's on it. But if we don't scrape it down first, like all these little bits of chicken on there, it literally cooks to the board. Like the proteins of the chicken, actually the proteins in plastic and the proteins in meat are actually, from what I understand, very similar, which is why sometimes I always want to say Tupperware, your plasticware, your to-go stuff, your Ziploc stuff, when you put it in the washing machine, or it comes out and it's like all like weird. So it doesn't be weird out of the dishwasher and still dirty, you need to use a bowl scraper, the back of it, and you need to just scrape it down. Now I am right next to my sink, which is just out of camera, and I have a garbage disposal. But what I am doing is I am just scraping all that stuff off. And that's going to do two things. It's going to make it more sanitary when it comes out of the dishwasher. And secondly, if you are scrubbing this by hand, your scrubby is not going to be full of chicken pieces. Because if I was to just start scrubbing it, that's what would happen, is it would just be full of chicken, and then you'd have to throw the scrubby away. So it helps out in two ways. So the last thing I'm going to show you is how I seal my chicken. And so I have this little seal-a-meal thing that I bought at Costco for like $35. And you just put it in bags, and it'll suck the air out. It'll say hands-free. You can see it sucking a little bit of the liquid out. And now it's done. Let it sit a second. Lights go off, and it's sealed. Now I have an older model, so sometimes if there's too much liquid in there, it doesn't like it. But basically, that's how it works. And so this is great practice for you to practice breaking down chickens. And even if you just throw it in a Ziploc bag. I threw this in a Ziploc bag because I don't care if it gets freezer burned, because it's just for stock anyway. If you notice, this is also how we do it at school. You're going to say what it is. I also said boneless because I finished boning out the thighs, the date, and then we put it in the freezer. And that's really it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in class.